Hi, everyone, and welcome to the special Simulcast of the Neil Haley Show, Storehouse Media Group podcast, and Criminally Good with Sherrie and Jen. I always want to do Jen and Sherrie. I'm telling you, it would work. As a marketing guru myself, I'd say that. But guys, thanks again. I know you have amazing guests for us today. We had a good conversation in the green room about things, and I like what they're doing. So go ahead and tell us who our guests are.
Well, our guests are Dan Murphy and Tom Shields of the podcast Goat Shields. And they have that because when I first heard it, I said, oh, they have to be NYPD because Goat Shields. And sure enough, you guys you retired as detectives from NYPD. You have extensive law enforcement experience, I think 50 years combined. And you have that podcast rocking and rolling. So welcome, Tom and Dan.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
Yep, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah. So we met at CrimeCon, and coming from the NYPD family, it was kind of like family again. And it was really good talking to you guys afterwards. And I understand though, like in addition, like I've watched your podcast, you have so many awesome episodes, like awesome stories. And the people who come on have a really good story, but you're involved in a lot of different things. But first of all, tell us about like how did Goat Shields get started?
Well, it was an idea. It was just a really floated idea to Dan one day about, hey, why don't we do a podcast? And he kind of looked at me like I had 10 heads and about what do you want to do it on? And we just kind of collectively said, with the experience that we have and the people that we have that we know, we could probably get some good stories. And as Dan explains all the time, at the time we were doing this and thinking about it, law enforcement was getting thrown under a bus every day. The military was getting looked at upon kind of the same way. And we said together, there's so many great stories out there that people don't know about, that they should know about. And that's how it started. And we just, got our heads together about getting the first 7 shows scheduled, which is all we had kind of on paper at the time. And we were kind of worried about getting to number 8 because there wasn't a number 8. And right about 5 or 6, Dan, things just started moving and people started to get in touch with us and asking to be on and people suggesting other people to get on. And it just really took off from there. And our show is just so guest centric and their stories. Dan and I, and we get people, getting mad at us sometimes that we don't talk about ourselves. We don't talk about our careers. It's all about our guests and their stories.
Yeah, we did one episode each. We decided to dedicate one episode each to a case that we worked on that we felt was worthy of our audience in terms of interest level. It wasn't just a regular run-of-the-mill thing. And we had a lot of fun with that and got great feedback on it. But we were blessed to have great, interesting careers, did a lot of things, saw a lot of things, traveled, unusual stuff for cops. And so we decided to bring that. And, the show evolved over time and it's still evolving. The type of guests, the type of stories, we decided not to pigeonhole ourselves too much and just be a show about cops. We didn't want to be, there's a lot of podcasts out there and there's nothing wrong with it where it's just cops sitting around talking shop or talking about funny things that happened. And there's a place for that, time and a place for that. But we recognize, as Tom said, it's about creating an aura of respect, having people understand what these people do for a living all day long to protect you here and around the world. And let's bring that up, put a light on that. And it's been such an amazing experience. As Tom said, we have met people we never, ever thought we would ever meet, never mind interview. And some of them have become friends. And it's just our circle expands constantly. We've had guests on from all over the world. We had homicide detectives on in Australia. We had a guest on in Rome with a very famous case. England, just amazing stuff. And we continue to be blown away by the quality, caliber of the people and stories that we attract to our show.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you where I saw you guys first. I was watching last September, I guess it was CrimeCon, and coming out of Colorado. And I noticed in the background, whenever Paul Morrow with Fox was doing his seated little talk, he was sitting out in the exhibitor creator row area, and you guys were right behind him in the backdrop and stuff. And I thought, Gold Shields, Gold Shields. Well, that's got to be NYPD. And I'm from down in Virginia, from being a trooper in an ATF. But, I watched NYPD Blue. I know, what Gold Shields are. So I thought, hey, I gotta check them out. So saw you YouTube, then also LinkedIn, seeing you guys there. I think it was you, Tom, that I probably saw in an interview with somebody, and you were talking about when you were new to CrimeCon and not knowing, like what or who or what to expect, who you were going to meet, what to even show up with, just I bring a chair, sort of thing. And I look back at that because that was Sherrie and I this year at CrimeCon. It was a bucket list for me with the book. It was a bucket list idea for Sherrie as well. It was like, yeah, let's go do this. We got picked, we go, and we have no idea. And all I could think was Tom Smith with Gold Shield. He said the same thing. Didn't know what to do the first one. So yeah, so we had a little in common anyway on that line of things.
But you're so right. We didn't know. We got told about, we didn't even know what CrimeCon was actually. And then someone mentioned it and we booked it maybe a month beforehand.
Oh my.
So, we got a booth and we got a pull-up kind of poster and that was it. That's all we had. We had an empty table. We were looking at each other going, what do we do? Just talk to people? How does this work? And, you got kind of in the rhythm of it the first time and we got the first one under our belt. And then we did, another one down in
Orlando.
Where was it?
Orlando, Nashville.
Yeah, Nashville. Mm-hmm. And then, then we were blessed to be asked to be on Creator Row, the last couple of years. So the first 2 years we did something right. So it worked out, but it was very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'll agree with you there.
Oh, yeah. Well, I showed up with 2 roll-ups and mine arrived 4 days before I got on the plane to go. So it was like, I didn't know. And but it was a fun time. I mean, it's fun. It's interesting. It's an amazing event. So I definitely plan on going back. One of the things, we talked about the fact that you guys had a lot of shows. In fact, you guys are pushing about 150 episodes. You're getting
we just released our 170th.
170th. Oh my goodness, that is fantastic. So you guys have been at it for a while, and that shows you've got an audience. You've got a good base going there because that's a lot. You got your chemistry and your history together. Did you guys work together at NYPD enough to know each other before you jumped into it, or was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, actually back in the late 90s, I think it was, I walked into the office one day, and Tom can tell a story better than me. I was transferred as a sergeant I had been a detective for years, got promoted to sergeant, and I had been transferred to the Bronx Gang Squad. At the time, it was part of the Detective Bureau, and there's a bunch of detectives assigned there, and I get transferred. My first day, I walk in the door, and I meet Tom, and he can tell a story from there. But we worked there together for a couple of years, and then we worked in the terrorism task force. But Tom, tell the first day, the whirlwind, the day that we met, and how you decided you thought I was okay. Because I had to pass muster. As a boss, you have to pass muster,
you got to be okay.
The NYPD doesn't, anyone in the NYPD doesn't like any change. We're a pain when it comes to that. We are. And my partner and I were working on this case of getting this very, very violent, nasty gang leader into a case and, trying to lock him up and trying to get him. And we tried for a while and we just never had enough to get him. And then we finally had enough to get a search warrant in his house that we were told there were an arsenal of weapons and drugs and a whole bunch of stuff. So we were pretty excited about the day we were going to go do that warrant. And it just so happens that morning I walked into the office to get everything prepared, and who's standing in the office but our new sergeant. And I just looked at him and went like, who's this? And he's like, same exact personality. Hey, it's Dan Murray. How are you? How you doing? I went, great. Tom Stewart, let's go. He's like, what are we doing? Come on. We're going. Put your stuff down. Let's go. We're going to do a warrant. He's like, okay. So we actually had to brief Dan in the car going to do this warrant of this guy. So our emergency service unit, which is pretty much the NYPD SWAT team, chose to do the warrant because of the amount of weapons that were in there, that were reported in there. So they hit it and they came out and they said, well, no one's in there. So now we had to go find this guy who was running with his cousin. So we spent the next 3 days together. I think we went home for like an hour or two, and came back and spent the next 3 days getting him. And we just clicked. I mean, Dan and I, it was just one of those things. And you know it when you know it, that that relationship just hit immediately. The way we were thinking about cases, the way we had to do things. Dan mentioned a certain way to get him, which I just said, okay, I like this guy. We're good.
Tell a story. It's a good story.
So,
Hear it.
so we got information that the individual was in New Jersey at the time. And there is a way to go into another state and get them. There's a way to do it, but we didn't have time. We just didn't have the time because we were going to lose them. And the information was spot on from a girlfriend, that a girlfriend of the main bad guy. So we're debating with our lieutenant and captain about how to do this, and it's getting really frustrated. We're like, listen, we have to go. Dan grabs me by my shirt, pulls me in the hallway, and goes to me and my partner, go get him, throw him in the trunk, and bring him back home. So I went, okay, cool. I like this guy. We're good. Now we've known each other for 3 days. And I went, okay, we're good with this. See ya. And we took off to go to New Jersey, and we actually just missed him. We didn't get him, but we ended up getting him the next day, which was great. But there was just a click and a friendship there, more than just working together. As Dan said, we worked there together, then in JTTF together. And then even after that, we were just friends. It wasn't even a matter of being partners and Dan is my boss. It was a friendship that we developed and continue now for about 25 years.
So in the NYPD, among detectives, if you're a supervisor of detectives and you weren't a detective, it's a little tough. You really got to earn some respect because they want to know that you know what they're going through. I had been a detective. I had worked at the highest levels in the major case squad, narcotics, everything. So I wasn't an expert in anything, but I had been through all this stuff before and I knew the ins and outs. And I came to the table, and I think that's one of the reasons in short time Tom and I got along. But one of the reasons I really respected him immensely was because he has an incredible laser-like focus on a case. And he's the kind of guy, and it's the highest respect you can get in the NYPD is when somebody says, if somebody does something to my family or me, I want you on the case. And that's the kind of guy he is, tenacious, he doesn't give up, and that's how I was as a detective, and I respect that. And that's why whenever I had people that worked for me that did that, I was like, whatever you need, my job is to open the door so you can go do it. And I think that cemented the relationship, but we had an understanding. We both understood the work for what it was. It's vital, important, and we get it done.
I like that. I could work for you, Dan. That'd be good. I want somebody. I want somebody who's got my back and turns me loose and lets me go get my job done. I like that.
Yep.
And Tom can tell you the bosses we had, my bosses at the time had never been detectives. They were overseeing a detective squad that was trying to tackle a rampant problem in the Bronx. We have 45,000 identified gang members in the Bronx. It was 13 detectives. We were told, do something about it.
Whoa.
Okay, so all right, do something about it. But my lieutenant and captain, neither one of them had been a detective. Neither one of them had done any kind of work like this. And it was frustrating to the extent that they just didn't understand how to get things done or how to. And the good thing is, after a while, they left me alone, which I appreciated.
They had confidence. So you guys work together in the trenches on the job, and now you're working together in the trenches on your podcast. So of all your podcasts, 170, is there one that kind of hits you most memorable or like wow or at the most?
Yeah, I'll do this one quick. Well, not quick, but we get that asked a lot. That was probably our biggest question at CrimeCon. People coming up and asking that. I'm gonna say there's one that I'm proud of, and the reason I'm proud of it. We did a show on the Vatican Girl, which was a case out of Italy from the early 80s of a young girl who disappeared in Vatican City. And her brother has been after her since this day, till today. Pietro's still looking for her. Her name was Emanuela Orlandi. And the reason I'm proud of that show was because that was pretty early in Gold Shields. And we had to do a lot to get that off the ground. Even still early in the show of how to do things and how things work and how we're going to talk to, an individual that doesn't speak English. So we had to make sure the connections to Italy were good. We had an interpreter. Maria got more compliments than I think all of us combined with the job that she did interpreting during that show. But the recording of the show probably took about 3 hours to do because it was English, then Italian, and then back to English and back and forth. And the job that our producer and editor Ovette did on that job, on that show, putting it all together with the interpreter, with the story, and with Pietro there, was one of those that I'm really proud of because of how early it was in our show's history that we got a very complex show like that done. So that's one I always am pretty proud of that we did.
Yeah, there's so many, and I'm not taking anything away from the guests, but let me go back to the very first guest we had was our former chief of department, Louis Anamone. Now, Louis Anamone, back in the NYPD, when he was the chief of department, the highest ranking uniform member, was known as a guy he was a out in front leader. If he was riding around in a car and he heard cops calling for help in the city, he would hightail it there, jump out of the car, and jump into the fray. He was a cop's cop. Enormous respect for the man. So we had him on the show. He was our inaugural interview, and it was just a pleasure to get a chance to do that because ordinarily in the police department, he was so many ranks above us. I never got a chance to talk to him. He walked past me like I was nothing. But he was great, and then he challenged us. He challenged us on that show when he asked us, he said, you know what, guys, there's one unsolved homicide of NYPD cops, one that has never been solved. And I'm going to challenge you guys to do something about it. In 1940, at the World's Fair in Flushing Meadow Park in Queens, a worker at the British Pavilion found a bag with a suspicious device in it. He called the NYPD. Two of the very, very new bomb squad at the time, detectives, were home. It was the 4th of July. They were cooking burgers with their family, but they were on call till 4 o'clock. They get a call at about 10 minutes to 4. You guys have to go check out this package at the World's Fair at the British Pavilion. This is 1940. They go, they pick each other up, they drive in. One of the detectives picks up the bag or looks at it, opens it up very gingerly, turns to his partner and said, it's the business. And with that, the bomb went off. The two of them were killed and 6 or 8 others in an area was severely injured. It has never been solved. To this day, nobody knows who did it. If somebody does, they haven't come forward. It's the only NYPD line of duty homicide that has not been solved in our history of the department. So I didn't even know about the case, and I hate to say that, but he challenged us with it. Now, there's a lot of intrigue with that case. I could go into it. We could do a whole episode on it, and we did. The next episode we did. We did our homework, we did our research, and we did an appeal to the public. Does anybody know anything about this? Did anybody's grandfather on their deathbed say something? Is there notes in someone's house? Are there files at the CIA that have been declassified? Is there anything out there that says who did this? And the reason we did that was because we realized at that moment we have a platform. What are we going to use this platform for? Not to just make it an appeal for help on cases all the time, but it is an opportunity when the case is right. Now, this case, fascinating time in history, 1940, Churchill is begging America to get involved in World War II, begging us. Roosevelt is putting him at hold. Germans have this organization called the Bund in New York City. They met at Madison Square Garden. They had a huge rally. There was a lot of crazy stuff going on. So the theories flew like crazy as to who was involved in this. Some thought the Brits did it to themselves to encourage America, saying the Germans did this to us. Look what they'll do to you. Some said the Germans actually did it. All kinds of stuff going on, all kinds of theories. So we threw it out there. We haven't gotten anything on it, but I think I'm proud of that show because I recognize that Tom and I realized what we were stepping into. It's more just two of us talking. We can use this in different ways, and we've tried to take that and do good with it where we could, to expose things or to bring about information.
That's fantastic. Hey, Sherrie.
Yeah, that is fantastic. It's awesome. I want to get this in before we get off, because I know you guys, this is super interesting. You're working, you have a company called Impact Defense, and you're working on alternative to the messy traditional pepper spray. Tell us about that.
So a few years ago, actually, the genesis of this was probably 2020. Watching what happened in response to the George Floyd situation, where police officers were dealing with riots and civil disturbances across the country, I noticed something, and it reminded me that during our police career, Tom and I never once used our department-issued pepper spray. And most cops don't. They don't even carry it anymore half the time in the country because it's such a mess. It messes everybody up that's around it. It comes back on cops. I've talked to many civilians who carry it. It was a gift from their dad or something, and they have it in their bag, but they're afraid to use it because their friend told them it's going to mess them up too. And I thought to myself, this is an industry that has not, in 40-something years, bothered to deviate away from pepper, which they think is the only chemical composition that can work in this. And I know it's not. I'm not a chemist, but I know that. There's no way it's the only thing. So I met with a chemist. I worked for a year and a half with a chemist, and Tom and I decided to pursue this. We came up with a patent-protected mix of food-grade, safer, less hazardous ingredients that actually work like a champ on the eyes. And they are less downside, no respiratory distress, quick cleanup. We have over 100 departments using it right now nationally, with over 300 more testing it. We're on a major cruise line. We're in hospital centers. We're being carried by people as they jog and walk all over the country. And it's been fascinating to watch it slowly gather a storm, because it's a safer way. We call it a better way than pepper spray. It's a safer way to protect yourself and, as an officer, to get the job done in a climate where the least amount of force necessary is what everybody's looking for. Everybody. So we think we've tapped into something. It again, like a few years ago with the podcast, we never envisioned anything like this in our lives. But it's interesting when two people get together and start talking about stuff, what you can come up with. So it's called Impact, and it's carryimpact.com. And I'm telling you, it works. I've been hit, I don't know how many times. I don't know how many times Tom has been hit with it too. But you clean it up and you're back to normal like that.
Interesting. That's. Hey, I would have loved to have had something like that. In fact, I probably do need to get that just for a personal carry. You know, because
I know some guys that can do that for you.
Yeah, I think I might have met a couple today. Yeah. Sherrie, you're a runner. You need this.
I know, I do. I need to get it. That was going my next question. How can I get some?
Yeah.
Carryimpact.com. They're all on there. Three different sizes that we have, and then also a keychain that can attach right to your belt, your backpack, anything, your water bottle, anything that you're bringing with you. It's very compact and good for those situations.
Guys, we get a chance to talk. I'm down here at Fletsy in Georgia, so reach back out to me later.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wow. I think that, guys, what are your goals before we finish up this podcast, for your podcast? What do you want?
Oh, you know what? I'm going to give you a weird answer. The goal is to just continue what we're doing, to growth in it, obviously, yes. But our whole thing is getting these stories out that people comment on and they reply to what the show is, and are great fans, who really just like these stories that we're giving, because the guests that we have give a firsthand account of their situation. It's not a third hand. It's not reading from a book. It's not reading from something. These are the people who actually went through it, from SEAL Team 6 members to Kathy Kleiner, who survived an attack by Ted Bundy, from Taya Kyle, who was Chris Kyle, American Sniper's wife, and getting her story of that. So there's so many great stories, and it's just continuing this ride that we're on, and the response that we get of people who love our show. And it's, Dan and I don't think there's two people that laugh more at each other or themselves than Dan and I. And it really hit us one time. This one guest, I'll never forget them. They were an older couple down at CrimeCon, and they came up and they couldn't wait to meet us because the gentleman said that we're their Saturday morning. They get up on Saturday, they get their coffee, they get everything settled, they put their laptop on, and they watch our show. And that is everything. I mean, that beats everything, every click, every number, every subscriber, all that. When you hear a story that you're in someone's house every Saturday while they're eating breakfast means everything.
And
so that's
no, I'm sorry, Tom. You're absolutely right. We get a kick out of it. Just this morning, we were reading some reviews of the show that we dropped 3 days ago, which is a fascinating discussion with a man named Alex West, who was a Navy SEAL commander. He was the team lead on one of the teams that did the bin Laden raid. So he talks from his perspective about that. And we've had good numbers with that, but also amazing comments. People said, incredible interview, best I've ever heard about this topic. That's the kind of stuff that feeds us. We love that stuff. And we hope, of course, it goes along with 1 million downloads every episode. We hope, of course, it goes along with larger platforms and sponsorships and things like that. But it's funny how our focus on the quality of the guests has been bringing those other things along. Maybe not as quick as they could, but I want to do this like Tom does. We want to continue to make the product, the content, the guests, the best they can be. And then we hope everything else comes along with it because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's cranking away. That's all you got to do is just keep the reps going and wait to what happens and find that audience. And you have found it. Now it's the next step. Well, where is best place, guys, we can find info? Where can we go?
YouTube.com/@GoldShields is our platform on YouTube, but we're on every audio platform, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, every conceivable audio channel we're on. And our website is thegoldshieldShow.com. At the Gold Shield Show on Instagram is where all our posts about what's going on will be. And we just love the feedback. We love people being engaged with us, and it's been a great ride. It's a lot of fun.
All right, fantastic. Go to storehousemediagroup.com for all things podcasting, publishing, ghostwriting, media, and then also go to jenniferclarkeeskew.com to purchase her book. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
That was the special Traumacast, the Neil Haley Show, Storehouse Media Group podcast, and Criminally Good. Take care, guys.